with people. So we may need some kind of applications on our mobile phones which will help us communicate with the kind of technology that they are using. They may not be even using voice to communicate. They may be using some waves, electromagnetic waves kind of things to communicate. So it will require some other kind of technology. So that is something which is completely imagined. You can imagine the things that we need to communicate with people from other planets. Okay, so why we have discussed people from other planets? Because that will be the theme of this cortex in this module. The cortex in this module is titled The Watery Place, which is a story by Isaac Asimov. He is a science fiction writer. We will learn what is science fiction after some time. So first of all, this is you can see the picture of Isaac Asimov. He is a Russian-born American writer who lived from 1920 to 1922. He was also a scientist and a biochemist. He is the author of many works of science fiction. So fiction is different from friction. Okay, so they are two different terms. What is the meaning of friction? Might be familiar with what is friction. Do you know what is friction? What is friction? There are two different terms. Fiction and fiction are two different terms. Okay. So there are two terms here now. യെസ് ഫ്രിക്ഷൻ എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞാൽ സംഘർഷമാണ്. നമ്മൾ സയൻസിലെ ഭാഷയിൽ പറഞ്ഞു കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ അതൊരു ഘർഷണം എന്ന് പറയുന്ന ഒരു ഫിസിക്സിലുള്ള ഒരു ടേമായിട്ടും പറയും. വെൻ ഇറ്റ് ഇസ് ബിറ്റ്വീൻ പീപ്പിൾ ഇറ്റ് ഇസ് സംഘർഷം. ആളുകൾ തമ്മിലാവുമ്പോൾ അത് സംഘർഷമാവും. ബട്ട് വെൻ ഇറ്റ് ഇസ് ബിറ്റ്വീൻ തിങ്സ് ഇറ്റ് ഇസ് ആക്ച്വലി എ കൈൻഡ് ഓഫ് എ ഫോഴ്സ്. Friction is a kind of force that exists between things, either in movement or in static condition when it is not in movement. സംഘർഷം അല്ലെങ്കിൽ ഘർഷണം, ആൾക്കാർ തമ്മിലാവുമ്പോൾ ഫ്രിക്ഷൻ എന്ന് പറയുമ്പോൾ സംഘർഷമാണ്. And yes, Joff, it is a kind of force. So that is friction. But here there is no R. If you notice this word fiction, it has nothing to do with friction. ഫ്രിക്ഷനുമായിട്ട് യാതൊരു ബന്ധവുമില്ല. ഫിക്ഷൻ എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞു കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ it only means a story. Fiction only means story. So we are actually dealing with stories when we mention fiction. So fiction is a broad category of stories. It has two kinds of stories. One is a short story and the other is a novel. A novel is a very long story which almost composes a big book, whereas a short story consists of a story within just a few pages. So that's the difference between a short story and a novel. Both short stories, long stories, novels, they are all together categorized under the genre of fiction. So fiction is the general category which contains short stories and novels. So what is science fiction? Science fiction is the kind of fiction or story which is written using science. So when somebody uses science to tell a story, such stories are called science fiction. So this person, this author of this short story, Isaac Asimov, is famous for his works of science fiction. He has written books on science for non-scientists and essays on a wide variety of subjects. Asimov's most famous work is the Foundation series. The Watery Place is a short story which was first published in the October 1956 issue of Satellite Science Fiction. So let us quickly get into the story. So when he begins, the story is begun in a very dramatic manner. So what the author is trying to do is he is trying to tell the story in a very dramatic manner. Suddenly, the story begins very suddenly with unexpected manner, in an unexpected manner. And uh, when you suddenly begin something, it is called an abrupt beginning. Okay, so there is a sudden beginning, unexpected beginning is called an abrupt beginning. So such an abrupt beginning can be seen in this story, where he uh, begins by saying that we are not going to have space travel. So that is how he begins the story. So if you look at science, we can see that we already have space travel. You can see that there are satellites which are being put into orbit. Yesterday also we have seen that many satellites from India have been put into orbit. If you looked up the newspapers of yesterday, you can see the day before yesterday we had a satellite launch of ISRO where we put many satellites, including other countries' satellites also in orbit. So this is space travel. So we also have had human beings going into space. So this is something human beings have already achieved. We have already been into space. We have sent material into space. We have already a space station in space, international space station, where people are living inside the space station and the space station is going around the earth. So such things are already happening in the world. And now the narrator is telling us that we are not going to have space travel. And he says that no extraterrestrials will ever land on Earth. So, what do you mean by an extraterrestrial? Extraterrestrial is a person from outside the Earth. As it was said earlier, a person from outside the Earth, a living being from outside the Earth is called an alien. Okay, alien. So, aliens. So, aliens have uh, are called extraterrestrial. Terra means earth, extraterrestrial means outside the earth. So people from outside the earth are called extraterrestrials. So this is how he begins the story in a very unexpected manner. That we are never going to have space travel because no extraterrestrials will actually uh, come on the earth. And he says at least not anymore, because you may have already had some extraterrestrials coming here, but future in the future we will not have extraterrestrials. So that is what he says. So what is the reason? That is the story. Okay, so this is a kind of introduction to the story which will actually create interest in the readers. So the why is he telling this in the beginning? He is trying to create interest in us. He is trying to create interest in us to read the story. That is why he begins with a sudden and unexpected statement that we will never have space travel in the future. Okay, so that was the beginning. So, and then he says why it is. So, what happens which leads to such a situation? I think I will ask somebody to read. Now, Parvati, please read that paragraph which is highlighted over there. Parvati CM. Shri Priya case. Sri Priya KS.
Yes, sir.
Please read that.
I am not just being a pessimist. As a matter of fact, space travel is possible. Extraterrestrials have landed. I know that spaceships are crossing space among a million worlds, but we will never join them. This is because of a silly mistake. I will explain.
Exactly. Thank you. Thank you, Sri Priya. So I am not just being a pessimist. A pessimist is a person. Who is a pessimist? What do you mean by a pessimist? Anyone? What is meant by a pessimist? Does anyone know what a pessimist is? Okay, I will tell you, pessimist is the opposite of optimist. So what is an optimist?
ശുഭാപ്തി വിശ്വാസം ആണോ?
യെസ് നന്ദന, ശുഭാപ്തി വിശ്വാസമുള്ള ആളാണ് ഓപ്റ്റിമിസ്റ്റ്. അപ്പോൾ അങ്ങനെ അല്ലാത്തയാളാണ് പെസിമിസ്റ്റ്. സംബടി ഓക്കെ, ദാറ്റ് ഈസ് യെസ് ലിമ. അതിൻ്റെ ഓപ്പോസിറ്റാണ്. ഒന്നും ശരിയാവില്ല എന്ന് ചിന്തിക്കുന്ന ആളുകളെയാണ് നമ്മൾ pessimist എന്ന് പറയുന്നത്. So he is saying that I am not being a pessimist. So why am I saying that we will not have space travel in the future? Not because I am a pessimist, but because there is a reason. Some mistake has been committed by human being. So space travel is possible. Extraterrestrials have come on Earth. Spaceships are already going into space, but we will not be able to join these spaceships in the future. He is talking about the future. So why is he saying that? He says it is because of a silly mistake. So we have committed, human beings have committed some mistake. So what is the mistake? He says, I will explain. So this explanation forms part of the story. So what is the mistake? Who committed that mistake? What is the nature of that mistake? That is what is going to be explained in this story. Okay. So let us look at what the story is. Revati, read that next paragraph.
It was actually but Cameron mistake. He is sheriff at Twin Gulch, USA, and I am his deputy. But is an impatient man, especially when he is working on his income tax forms. You see, besides being sheriff, he also owns and runs the general store. He's got some shares in a sheep ranch. He does a bit of as a work. He has got a kind of pension for being a disabled veteran back knee and a few other things like that. Naturally, it makes his tax figures complicated.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Revati. So it was Bart Cameron's mistake. So that is how the narrator starts telling us the story. It is Bart Cameron's mistake. So suddenly he is taking the name of somebody. We don't know who that person is. So he will describe who that person is. So who is Bart Cameron? He says he is the sheriff at Twin Gulch, USA. So Twin Gulch is a city in USA, and Bart Cameron is the sheriff there. Sheriff is a post like mayor in our land. Like we have mayor who is the head of a city in India, sheriff is the head of a city in USA. And he says he is the sheriff and I am his deputy. So when you hear I in the story, I is not the author. Okay, I is not the author, I is the narrator. So the narrator and the author are two different people. Author എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞാൽ കഥ എഴുതിയ ആളാണ്. കഥ എഴുതിയ ആളാരാണ്? കഥാകൃത്താണ് ഓതർ. ആരാണ് കഥ എഴുതിയത്? ഈ കഥയുടെ ഓതർ ആരാണ്?
Isaac Asimov.
Exactly. Yes, and Maria, it is Isaac Asimov. Isaac Asimov is the author. But here, when you are reading a story, there will be an I in the story. That I in the story need not be the author. So we have somebody who is telling the story. അപ്പോൾ കഥ എഴുതിയ ആളും കഥ പറയുന്ന ആളും വേറെ വേറെ ആളുകളാണ്. അപ്പോൾ കഥ പറയുന്ന ആള് അതിലെ ഒരു കഥാപാത്രമാകാം. It can be a character in the story who is telling the story. So here we have a character in the story who is telling the story. This character is the deputy of Bart Cameron, which means the I in the story is the deputy sheriff. Okay, whenever we see I here in the story, he is the narrator of the story, and the narrator of the story is the deputy sheriff. That is, Bart Cameron is the sheriff, and I, or the narrator, is the deputy sheriff. And this paragraph describes what kind of a person Bart Cameron is. So he says he's an impatient man, somebody who doesn't have patience. What is patience?
ക്ഷമ.
ക്ഷമയില്ലാത്തത്. യെസ്, ശ്രീലക്ഷ്മി ജോഫി. യെസ്, ക്ഷമയില്ലാത്ത ആളാണ് ഇംപേഷ്യൻറ്റ്. പേഷ്യൻ്റ് എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞാൽ ക്ഷമയുള്ളത്. ഇംപേഷ്യൻറ്റ് മീൻസ് ക്ഷമയില്ലാത്ത ആൾ. And why is he more impatient? Because he is working on his income tax forms. He is working with his income tax forms, and therefore he is impatient. Yes, Sri Lakshmi. So that is the reason he is impatient, because he is also working income tax forms. Everybody is worried about income tax, the kind of tax that you have to pay for getting an income. So why is his income tax forms causing him a lot of problem? That is also explained, because he is not just a sheriff. He has income from different sources. When you have income from different sources, you will have to pay tax for all the sources of income. So this is something that you will learn when you learn income taxation. If you have a paper on taxation, you will learn that direct taxes. Under direct taxes, you have income tax, which means that for every income that you get, you will have to pay a share of that income to the government. Here, this person, the sheriff, Bart Cameron, has many different sources of income. What are the different sources of that income that he has? First of all, he is a sheriff. Because he is a sheriff, he gets a salary for being a sheriff. So from the salary, he has to pay an income tax. Then he is not only a sheriff, he has also a store, a general store. What is a store? Store in USA, when you mention a store, it means a shop. നമ്മുടെ നാട്ടിൽ കട എന്ന് പറയുന്നത് സാധാരണ കട. A general store means പൊതുവായിട്ടുള്ള സാധനങ്ങളൊക്കെ കിട്ടുന്ന കട. A general store. He owns and runs the general store. So if you have a shop, you will have some profit from the shop, which is an income. He has got shares in a sheep ranch. A ranch is a farm. Sheep farm. What is a sheep farm? Sheep farm എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞാൽ എന്താണ്? What is sheep?
ചെമ്മരിയാടല്ലേ?
ആട്. Yes, ചെമ്മരിയാട്. So sheep farm. So here he is running a sheep farm. He has income from that also. He does a bit of essay work. That word is new for us. It is not essay. Essay is ESSAY. This is ASSAY. Everybody knows what is ESSAY. Essay is what? Essay എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞാൽ എന്താണ്? ഇവിടെ essay writing ഇതൊക്കെ ഉണ്ടായിരുന്നു കോമ്പറ്റീഷൻ. What is essay? ലേഖനം, ഉപന്യാസം. യെസ്, അപർണ. പ്രബന്ധം, അങ്ങനെ പല പേരുകളുണ്ട്. ഇതെല്ലാം essay ആണ്. But here this is assay. It is beginning with A. Assay means to measure or to find out the quality of a metal like gold. അതിനെയാണ് assay എന്ന് പറയുന്നത്. യെസ്, ഉപന്യാസം. അതാണ് essay. പക്ഷേ ഇത് assay ആണ്. യെസ്. അപ്പോൾ ഉപന്യാസവും ESSA വഴിയാണ് ഉപന്യാസം, ഇത് ASS വഴിയാണ്. യെസ് സുബിത, പരിശോധിക്കുക. അതായത് നമ്മുടെ നാട്ടിലും ഉണ്ട് അങ്ങനത്തെ മെഷർമെന്റ് ഓഫ് ക്വാളിറ്റി, ലൈക്ക് വി കോൾ ഇറ്റ് ഹോൾ മാർക്കിംഗ് ഓഫ് ഗോൾഡ്, ദാറ്റ് വി മെഷർ ദി ക്വാളിറ്റി, ഹൗ പ്യുവർ ഇസ് ദിസ് മെറ്റീരിയൽ. So he is engaged in that kind of work also, where the quality of the metal like gold is measured. So that also gives you an income. So he has many sources of income. It is not over. He has also got a kind of pension for being a disabled veteran. Veteran is a senior person. Okay. Veteran is somebody who is a senior person. What is disabled? Disabled is somebody who has some kind of disability. വൈകല്യം ഉള്ളയാളാണ് ഡിസേബിൾഡ് എന്ന് പറയുന്നത്. സോ ഹി ഹാസ് ഡിസബിലിറ്റി പെൻഷൻ, നമ്മുടെ നാട്ടിലുണ്ട് വികലാംഗ പെൻഷൻ. സോ ഹി ഹാസ് സം പ്രോബ്ലം വിത്ത് ഹിസ് നീ. വാട്ട് ഇസ് നീ? KNEE, നീ. വാട്ട് ഇസ് നീ? ബാഡ് നീ എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞിട്ടുണ്ട്. വാട്ട് ഇസ് നീ? നീ ഇസ് എ പാർട്ട് ഓഫ് യുവർ ബോഡി.
മുട്ടല്ലേ, കാൽമുട്ട്.
കാൽമുട്ടിനെയാണ്, എക്സാക്ട്ലി ജോഫി, യെസ്, കാൽമുട്ടിനെയാണ് നമ്മൾ നീ എന്ന് പറയുന്നത്. സോ ഹി ഹാസ് സം പ്രോബ്ലം വിത്ത് ഹിസ് നീ ആൻഡ് ഹി ഹാസ് മാനേജ് ടു ഗെറ്റ് എ ഡിസബിലിറ്റി പെൻഷൻ ഫ്രം ദ ഗവൺമെന്റ്. So this man, Bart Cameron, has income from different sources, and he has to pay income tax for all the other sources of income that he has, including his being the sharif. So his tax figures are very complicated. So that is what is saying. His tax figures are very complicated. Okay. So it says, it is too bad that the flying saucer landed on the 14th of April 1956 when he was in the middle of filling his his tax forms. So what is a flying saucer? Have you heard of a flying saucer? What is a flying saucer? What is a flying saucer? കേട്ടിട്ടില്ല ഫ്ലൈയിങ് സോസർ? അത് കേട്ടിട്ടില്ല? ഫ്ലൈയിങ് സോസർ. യെസ് സുബിത, ഇറ്റ് ഇസ് പറക്കം തളികയാണ്. പറക്കം തളികയാണ് ഫ്ലൈയിങ് സോസർ എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞാൽ. പറക്കം തളിക, അതായത് ഇറ്റ് ഈസ് ദി വെഹിക്കിൾ ഇൻ വിച്ച് aliens are supposed to travel, and many people have said that they have seen a flying saucer. കണ്ടിട്ടുണ്ടെന്ന് പലരും അവകാശപ്പെട്ടിട്ടുണ്ട്, പക്ഷേ ശാസ്ത്രീയമായിട്ട് ഇതുവരെ തെളിയിച്ചിട്ടില്ല. Scientifically it has not been proved that such flying saucers exist. Yes, Sri Lakshmi. So we don't have proof that they exist, but there are many people who claim that they have seen flying saucers. So flying saucers are vehicles in which aliens travel, and these vehicles are far more advanced than the vehicles that human beings have invented. They don't make any sound like aeroplanes. യാതൊരു ശബ്ദവുമില്ലാതെ വളരെ അഡ്വാൻസ്ഡ് ആയിട്ടുള്ള ടെക്നോളജി ഉപയോഗിച്ച് സഞ്ചരിക്കുന്ന vehicles ആണ് flying saucers. They do not need a runway or anything. They can just go up and just come down. They are far advanced. And there are people who claim that they have seen flying saucers, and there are also very imaginative pictures of flying saucers. If you look up the net, you can see such pictures where people actually claim to see such flying saucers. So you can see so many images in the net, very imaginative. So why are they called saucer, flying saucers? It looks like an inverted saucer. നമ്മൾ കപ്പും സോസറും ഇല്ല ചായ കുടിക്കുന്നത്, അതിൻ്റെ ഒരു ഫോമാണ് അതിനുള്ളത്. So these are all not real pictures. These are all imaginative pictures of people imagining what these flying saucers can look like. Okay, so it is believed that many such things do exist, but there is no proof. We don't have any proof scientifically. Till now, we don't have any proof that such flying saucers exist. But everywhere where people claim to have seen aliens, they have seen such aliens coming in vehicles of such shapes. Okay, this is what they have seen, and these are all not real pictures. They are all imagined pictures. Okay, so uh, so that is why he says this flying saucer in which these aliens come to visit this place, that happened on the 14th of April, when this person, Bart Cameron, the sheriff, was filling his income tax forms, and he is very busy. And when you are very busy, when people come and meet you, you are likely to get angry, you are likely to get irritated. And Bart Cameron is already a very irritable person, a person who can get very irritated very fast, and therefore he may get angry with the aliens also. And that is a very dangerous situation. If you get angry with the aliens, it can land you in trouble. So what happens to Bart Cameron? How does he respond when he sees these aliens? What do the aliens want? Why have they come there? All these things we will learn through the rest of the story. When we go through the rest of the story, we are going to stop for today. That's all for today. Thank you for joining. Have a nice day. Goodbye.
Thank you,
Thank
sir.
you, sir. Thank you,
Thank you,
sir.
sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.